Download and upload more than ever before with an ultra-fast fiber connection. With 3 simple steps, you can be the one with an SLT fiber optic connection. Visit slt.lk.
Tonight, diplomatic tangle. UK's Chief Magistrate withdraws the arrest warrant on Brigadier Priyanka Fernando. Questions how the case never came to her desk. Leadership tussle. Opposition leader Mahinda Rajapaksa believes he should be made chairman of the proposed broader political alliance. Knocked over. Dimuth Karunaratne stretchered off the field after copping a bouncer by Pat Cummins in the second test. Tit for tat. Russia suspends involvement in the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty after US pullout. All that and much more coming up on First at 9 this Saturday, the 2nd of February 2019.
From Ada Derana, this is Ada Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhammik Eknaik. Let's start with your local stories. Now, Sri Lanka's former defence attaché in London, Brigadier Priyanka Fernando, is yet again in the headlines after it emerged in foreign media that the arrest warrant issued on him by a UK court has been withdrawn. UK's newspaper The Guardian reports that UK's Chief Magistrate had told Westminster Magistrates Court that there had been a catalogue of disappointing issues and she did not know how such a sensitive case could have gone to trial without it ever coming across her desk. The withdrawal of the arrest warrant does not translate to the case being over, with a full hearing set for the 1st of March to untangle the legal confusion.
News broke on the 22nd of last month that the then Minister Council of Defence, attached to the Sri Lanka High Commission in London, Brigadier Priyanka Fernando, was found guilty of making certain gestures towards a protesting group of LTTE sympathisers on 4th of February, the day of Sri Lanka's independence last year. The Brigadier was found guilty of 2 out of 3 offences under Public Order Act by signalling a death threat to the protesters. Media reports further said that the Westminster Magistrates Court issued an arrest warrant on Brigadier Priyanka Fernando, ruling that his actions were threatening, caused harassment and that he intended them to be so. In such a backdrop, international media yesterday reported that the arrest warrant has been revoked without a court hearing following UK Foreign Office involvement. Reports also highlight that yesterday Emma Arbuthnot, UK's Chief Magistrate, told the Westminster Magistrates Court that there had been a catalogue of disappointing issues and she did not know how such a sensitive case could have gone to trial without it ever coming across her desk. They further said that after consultations with the Foreign Office over the status and extent of Brigadier Fernando's diplomatic immunity, the Chief Magistrate abruptly withdrew the arrest warrant, a decision made without a public hearing. The reports add that an Indian national and 4 others involved in the protest initiated a private prosecution against the Brigadier, arguing that his behaviour caused them harassment, alarm and distress and constituted public order offences. According to foreign media, at yesterday's hearing, Brigadier Fernando was represented in court for the first time by an attorney called Nick Wayne, and the complainant's attorney Peter Carter had outlined a series of rather unusual options to deal with the case, including determining the diplomatic status of Fernando. It is reported that complainant's counsel has said that even if Brigadier Fernando had enjoyed immunity for official functions, that would not protect him from prosecution for what was clearly not authorised activity. Nick Wayne, counsel for the Brigadier, has suggested using Section 142 of the Magistrates Court Act 1980, a rarely used power to reopen cases where a mistake has been made. Belinda McRae, counsel for the Foreign Office, confirmed that the court had been given a certificate explaining the Brigadier's diplomatic status. The Chief Magistrate adjourned the case until 1st of March for a full hearing to resolve the legal confusion.
Now, in the meantime, speaking to First at 9, consultant on international law, attorney at law Krishmal Varnasuri said that under diplomatic immunity, a person can't be brought up before an ordinary court regarding civil matters.
On this moment, all we need to know is that whether, I believe already the foreign ministry has made a statement that the particular action that have been filed in that particular domestic court has been either withdrawn or terminated because the foreign ministry has made representations. It is only in exceptional circumstances, such as where, for example, you would remember the former Chilean leader Augusto Pinochet, when there were certain international war crimes, crimes that were considered to surpass jurisdictional boundaries, surpass territorial boundaries. When one is visited with such sanctions, then even in a country where such other person is domiciled in, those laws can apply to a person. Otherwise, other than that, there is strict protocol with regard to diplomatic immunity, and one is acting within the course of one's employment as an officer of that nation. That diplomatic immunity attaches to that person, and he cannot be brought or hauled up before ordinary courts, particularly in ordinary civil matters or things like damages or civil suits, unless, of course, as I said, there are exceptions that that person has actually transacted or interacted with the law of that land.
In the meantime, President Maithripala called at the residence of fallen Captain HWD Wickremesinghe of the 11th Sri Lanka Light Infantry Regiment in Polonnaruwa, whose life was claimed during a peacekeeping mission in Mali. Corporal SS Vijay Kumar also perished alongside Captain Wickremesinghe when their vehicle was attacked with an improvised explosive device. The duo was posthumously promoted to the ranks of Major and Sergeant, respectively. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka Army announced that the flight carrying the remains of the two Sri Lankan Army personnel will touch down at the Bandaranaike International Airport on Monday. Commander of the Sri Lanka Army, Lieutenant General Mahesh Senanayake, UN Resident Coordinator in Sri Lanka, Hannah Singer, and other officials of the government, the Army and their family members will receive the remains. Moving on with other local stories, President Maithripala Sirisena voices his concerns over a teacher being given rigorous imprisonment over physically punishing a student. Addressing a function held at the BMICH in Colombo today, the head of state said that he was upset to hear the verdict and the message it sends to the teaching community.
The book Mismatch Between the Education System and the Job Market in Sri Lanka, with special reference to soft skills, written by parliamentarian Mohanlal Guerrero, was launched at BMICH this afternoon under the patronage of President Maithripala Sirisena.
I was very upset to see a piece in a newspaper that a teacher was given rigorous imprisonment for beating a student. I myself was well beaten by teachers when I was at school. I don't criticize the ruling, but I have reservations about the message other teachers get by this when dealing with students. I propose that the Ministry of Education analyse this ruling and educate teachers on it. Last week, the Speaker sent me a file, and you know where it came from. The file was a proposal to gazette the Ministry of Industry and Commerce and Ministry of Skills Development. I asked my secretary to throw the proposal away. How many have organised protests demanding that their degrees be fashioned to match their skills? We all know the problem and the answer, but the issue lies with the solution not being implemented.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe holds the interim government, which was in power for 51 days, responsible for the country's economic woes. The Premier's remarks came during an event organised to introduce Gamperelia and Enterprise Sri Lanka programmes for the year 2019.
During this time, there were problems in the economy, cost of living rose, and it was a burden on the public, and we accepted that. When such a crisis was created and we had to pay for the sins of others, we never let the country collapse. Gamperelia is giving 300,000 rupees to journalists, and killings of journalists have now stopped. Does any of the private channels mention these things? For the first time in the history, everyone is willing to have a unitary state, which was impossible for 70 years. There were fears of international war tribunals when we came to power, but nothing of the sort happened. We did not have GSP Plus then, but we have now. Not only Gamperelia, we will also win the looming election. It cannot be stopped. Our front as an alliance will win a majority next time and will work better than this.
Leader of the opposition, Mahinda Rajapaksa, today insisted that he should be made chairman of the much-talked-about broader political coalition since he is already heading the opposition. The proposed coalition is set to feature the Sri Lanka Freedom Party and the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna. The opposition leader aired his thoughts when he visited Kandy today.
Leader of the opposition Mahinda Rajapaksa arrived in Kandy this morning and called on Chief Prelate of the Malvatta chapter, Most Venerable Tibbatuave Sri Sumangala Thera. He then met with Chief Prelate of the Asgiri chapter, Most Venerable Varakagoda Sri Gnanaratana Thera. After meeting the two chief prelates, members of the media was quick to question the opposition leader on the UNP's claim of a national government.
They are merely engaged in an attempt to increase the number of ministerial portfolios, and those involved are UNPs anyway. We haven't decided it yet. We should discuss first, and I should definitely be its chairman. I'm not the current chairman, but I am the leader of the opposition. I didn't appoint anyone. There are 1,000-odd employees. These are ways of wasting money for good governance. They're recruiting people to do politics. They receive 500 rupees, and that is the wealth of the people. This is a wrong practice. What would happen if every minister starts doing this?
The opposition leader then had an audience with the chief incumbent of the Rajupavanarama temple in Gatambe, Venerable Kapetiagoda Siri Vimala Thera. He also called on the chief prelate of the Ramanya sect, Most Venerable Napane Pemasiri Thera.
Now we move on to a bit of a rumbling saga. The Essential Food Importers and Traders Association warns of a possible shortage of essential goods by next week if measures are not taken to provide immediate solutions to the concerns of customs officers. The caution comes as the trade union action launched by officials of Sri Lanka Customs entered its fourth day today. With limited goods being cleared, the spokesperson of the Customs Officers Union charges that the situation is costing the government 2 billion rupees in daily losses.
The trade union action launched by officials of Sri Lanka Customs against the appointment of a retired Navy officer as its new Director General continued for a fourth day today. Discussions that took place yesterday between customs officials and the Minister of Finance concluded without a solution. As a result of the trade union action, activities of the customs headquarters have come to a standstill, while clearance of normal goods from the Customs Clearance Division have also been stopped. Trade unions say that potatoes, onions and medicines are the only goods being cleared at present. The spokesperson of the Customs Officers Union charges that due to the current situation, government is incurring a daily loss of 2 billion rupees. Meanwhile, issuing a statement in this regard, leader of the opposition Mahinda Rajapaksa states, owing to the trade union action launched by custom officials, clearance of imported goods have been delayed. He adds that as a result, prices of essential commodities in the country might increase. He went on to say that if such a situation arises, the government should be held fully responsible. Meanwhile, the Essential Food Importers and Traders Association also warned of a possible shortage of essential goods by next week if measures are not taken to provide immediate solutions to the concerns of customs officers.
We got details of a $1 billion loan the government seeking on the other side of this break. Stay tuned.
You are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel. This is Derana 24.
Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, international media reports say that Sri Lanka will soon sign a $1 billion concessional loan agreement with Beijing to fund the Central Expressway. They say that the construction of the first phase of the road linking Colombo with Kandy had been delayed by more than 2 years due to lack of funding. South China Morning Post quoted a spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Sri Lanka as saying that he was waiting to hear whether terms of the loan for the highway project had been approved. Reports say that Sri Lankan ambassador in China Karunasena Kodituaku was quoted by official media, that is, in Beijing yesterday as saying that the $1 billion loan will be used for the first stage of the Central Highway. The second stage will be financed by Sri Lankan consortiums and the third by Japanese loans. And moving on to other stories, Sri Lanka climbed 11 places in the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business Index for 2019, coming in 100th among 190 economies. Speaking at an event, Minister of Development Strategies and International Trade Malik Samaravikrama expressed more ambitious targets, saying that the aim for 2022 is to rise to 70th in the index. Among those targets set out is attracting $3 billion worth of foreign direct investments this year.
The establishment of the Mixed Development Project Integrating Multimodal Transport Centre was held under the auspices of Minister Partli Champika Ranavaka and Malik Samaravikrama in Battaramulla yesterday. The project aims to integrate rail and bus transport systems in the Western province.
Transport infrastructure in Sri Lanka requires modernization and utilizing our key transport nodes for more than just a vehicle exchange point or a junction. It is required to unlock new value and create new opportunities in the key strategy that the government is pursuing. Despite the political crisis, what is clear from how it got resolved, that the judiciary stands firmly and strongly on the side of what is right. This should give enormous sense of confidence to any foreign investor. And where the judiciary remains independent and just, there is a good foundation for international business. We have an ongoing work program to improve the ease of doing business, and as per the World Bank Index, I am pleased to report that in the 2019 report, Sri Lanka jumped up 11 places. We hope to keep improving with our eye on reaching 70th place by 2022. As you may know, last year, Sri Lanka attained the highest FDI on record, around $2.3 billion, and we aim to achieve $3 billion this year.
Now, Sri Lanka's Bandaranaike International Airport might soon see a new addition as a result of its expansion plans. Speaking at a ceremony to mark the first touchdown of a Thai Lion Air flight to Colombo recently, Chairman of Airport Aviation Sri Lanka Limited, Dhammika Ranatunga, went on to say that the current terminal will also be expanded. Addressing the same event, Ambassador of Thailand Chulamani Chatwan was of the view that improving connectivity between Sri Lanka and Thailand is pivotal in further strengthening ties between the two nations.
The Thai Lion Air's maiden flight to Colombo touched down at the Bandaranaike International Airport on Wednesday. Several dignitaries, including the chairman of Airport Aviation Sri Lanka Limited, Dhammika Ranatunga, and Ambassador to Thailand Chulamani Chatsuwan, were present at the occasion to welcome the maiden flight, including its passengers and flight crew. Thai Lion Air is a low-cost carrier and associate company of the Lion Group of Indonesia. The airline commenced operations in December of 2013 with 12 domestic, 2 cross-region and more than 20 international flights.
Air connectivity is important for the relations between people of the two countries. The more airlines, the easier that people can fly and can connect to each other, will always pave ways for more things to come, more positive things to come, like trade and investment and tourism and good understanding and mutual appreciation. There are ample opportunities for Thailand to come here in Sri Lanka, be it on tourism. There will be many other places to explore. Sri Lanka will launch the pilgrim route, which I'm sure will attract more and more people from Thailand to come here.
I believe we have a lot of similarities in our cultures, our beliefs. So when you meet people from countries where we have similar cultures, similar beliefs, it grows and it helps improve relationships. We are on a growth pattern as far as tourism industry is concerned, and you all have seen the recognitions we have got. Here at Bandaranaike Airport, we have made plans to develop our airport to cater to better capacity. There's a new terminal planned out. The existing terminal will change to cater to 12 to 15,000 capacity. So these plans are in place.
We're going to move for a short break. When we come back, it's news from overseas. Stay tuned.
are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel. This is Derana 24.
Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now let's take a look at what's happening around the world. In a tit-for-tat move, Russia has withdrawn from the Cold War-era Intermediate-Range Nuclear Forces Treaty after the United States did the same yesterday. US-Russia relations can be described as strained at best, especially with a probe into Russia's meddling in the last US presidential election well underway. Russia has pledged to develop nuclear missiles, with its foreign minister, or deputy foreign minister rather, saying that the US pullout of the Intermediate-Range Nuclear Forces Treaty poses a threat to the international security.
Russia has suspended its involvement in the Cold War-era Intermediate-Range Nuclear Forces Treaty following a similar decision by the US. President Vladimir Putin said Russia would start developing new missiles. The US, which has long accused Russia of violating the treaty, formally announced it was suspending its obligations under the agreement yesterday. Signed in 1987 by the US and USSR, it banned the use of short and medium-range missiles by both countries. Putin said today, quote, "Our American partners announced that they are suspending their participation in the treaty, and we are suspending it too. All of our proposals in the sphere as before remain on the table. The doors for talks are open," unquote. Russia's Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov said yesterday that the US pullout of the Intermediate-Range Nuclear Forces Treaty poses a threat to the international security and the system of arms and nuclear arms control. The United States alleges a new Russian cruise missile violates the pact. The missile, the Novator 9M729, is known as the SSC-8 by the NATO. Russia says the missile's range puts it outside the treaty and has accused the United States of inventing a false pretext to exit a treaty that it wants to leave anyway so it can develop new missiles. Russia has also rejected a US demand to destroy the new missile.
Now, dramatic pictures have emerged of the collapsed dam in southern Brazil at an iron ore mine which left more than 300 people dead or missing. The images show the moment muddy sludge engulfed the company canteen and neighboring buildings in Brumadinho in Minas Gerais state. The mine is owned by Vale SA, and this is the second such incident at one of its mines in 3 years. An investigation is underway, with 5 people already being arrested. Prosecutors in Brazil say there were 3 Vale officials rather, whose responsibilities included dealing with environmental impact licenses. Correspondents say the alarm system the company had installed to warn residents of any kind of risk did not go off. Those who live nearby reported hearing a loud noise at the time of the collapse. Now, moving on to sports news. Australia took command of the second test in its second day in Canberra against Sri Lanka today, going on to post 534 for 5 before declaring their first innings. Now, visitors' woes were compounded when opening batsman Dimuth Karunaratne had to be stretchered off the field after being hit by a bouncer. Now, despite getting off a good start, Sri Lanka ended the day on 123 runs for the loss of 3 wickets.
Australia resumed their first innings on day 2 of the second test from the overnight score of 384 for 4 and went on to add 200 more runs before deciding to declare on 534 for 5. Curtis Patterson became the third centurion in the innings with an unbeaten knock of 114 behind Joe Burns' 180 and Travis Head's 161. With a mammoth total to chase down, Sri Lanka's opening pair Dimuth Karunaratne and Lahiru Thirimanne provided a solid start with a 90-run stand, raising hopes for Sri Lanka. In a matter of seconds, things took an unexpected turn as Karunaratne was floored by a vicious bouncer by Pat Cummins as he took a nasty blow on the back of the helmet. He could not continue and had to be stretchered off the ground. Spinner Nathan Lyon was the first to strike as he dismissed Lahiru Thirimanne for 41. Impressive Cummins was at it again, with the pacer castling Kusal Mendis for 6. Chandimal was the last to be dismissed as Sri Lanka ended the day on 123 for 3 wickets. Later, addressing media, Sri Lanka's head coach Chandika Hathurusinghe had this to say about the blow Dimuth Karunaratne took and his condition.
What's the latest that you know about Dimuth's condition after he was taken off?
Yeah, he's in the hospital at the moment and he's in good spirit. Being assessed, yeah, no danger at the moment. He was talking to us before he's leaving as well.
Must have sent a major shock and scare through the whole camp.
Yeah, it was a bit scary at the start, the way he fell back initially, but he was okay. He was throughout. He was talking to the umpires and the physio. Yeah, he hit on the back of the neck, so he's been assessed at the moment.
By the way, Dimuth Karunaratne is in fact now out of the hospital, and with that, we conclude our news for tonight. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.